Hey you guys, we're back with another video. Today we're doing a reinstall on a lace wig. I already prepped the client and everything. I'm just gonna go ahead and get into the video. And I'm using Ghost Bond XL.
And that's when, I noticed that there was something wrong. She was arguing and using foul language, but not towards me. So she would ask me a question, and as I was answering her question,
She to the person.
Was then arguing with someone that was not there. In other words, Jennifer had wanted to apply for a business license, which was actually a business that she would name the Racist Press.
The title of the publication
wasn't about racist
with her former Brooklyn schoolmate,
really
Thomas Herb.
So this is largely an Italian neighborhood at the time, totally changed now. But in the 70s, this is largely Italian, and most of the people that were hanging out with were Italian.
They started the phenomenon of busing, where young children of color were brought from other neighborhoods into our neighborhood.
The goal was to alleviate crowding in the slums, so to speak.
And that caused a little racial strife. So it was kind of turbulent a little bit. There was some free flowing use of the N-word.
Of course.
Like always.
It was a new thing for people in the neighborhoods to experience, so it was a bit uncomfortable.
The only thing that I saw that was interesting to note is that it was part of that whole crew where people were threatening the neighborhoods by change. And the busing and the people.
And black people don't be wanting no parts any fucking way.
But despite its inflammatory title, San Marco's Racist Press was far from a bigoted tirade.
I pledge my life to defend the premise of democracy in this country and could not in good conscience pay for or justify a politically motivated racist murder. The United States government functions as a white supremacist affiliate, embracing Nazi German dogma.
She thought that the government was somehow controlling people. In cahoots with the KKK, she made a link to the Rocky Horror
She has
Picture Show,
schizophrenia.
and that all
And
those
everything
sent
else.
messages to people to commit murders.
A government conspiracy, psychics, and the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It sounds absurd for a sophisticated nation using this format as a legitimate, plausible strategy.
As 2005 continued, San Marco's neighbors in New Mexico noticed her going downhill rapidly.
I did know of the time that she had stripped at a local gas station.
Right back here, at the edge of the building over here, she would get on her knees
And pray.
start like praying, and
Yeah, she
she'd
had.
be,
She
with
was
her hands
screwed
up
up,
like
She
man.
had multiple
and start praying, and
personalities.
on the kind of weird.
We clearly know that when individuals have got severe mental health problems, having a significant other there to share your worries, to get advice from, to talk about your symptoms, is clearly much more beneficial than individuals who are on their
That's
own.
sad. Well, that's really like a really sad thing for somebody to go through and to see their
There may have been
family go through it. That is so sad to me.
July
Like how she didn't
1976,
have nobody.
New
That's,
York City. Serial killer, the son of Sam, begins a
and
campaign
she was
of
motivated by
violence
him,
on the
girl.
streets of the metropolis.
Never knew he worked at the post office and everything until I saw this. He worked at the post office. He was kind of
I already heard
crazy.
that name
She
too
grew
before.
up there. She was aware of this. She mentions it in her writing.
Over a 12-month period, postal worker David Berkowitz had preyed on young New Yorkers, shooting them with a handgun and spreading panic throughout the city.
You had this guy going around randomly killing people, and they had no idea what this was about. And I think if you were a young person, a teenager, particularly a girl, it would have been terrorizing.
Well, them, the
And his
girl.
name, San Marco, a petite young woman of Italian descent with long dark hair, fitted exactly what New Yorkers believed to be the son of Sam's preferred target.
People were very.
I'm just letting this it's dry now, so I'm gonna put my last layer on, and then I'm gonna place the wig.
Streets empty. Everybody was just terrified. Had no idea what was going to pop up next.
For journalist Scott, there are too many parallels in the two tales to ignore.
David Berkowitz was a postal employee who believed that a dog was giving him messages to kill people. Jennifer San Marco was a postal employee. She apparently talked to animals. She thought birds were giving her messages.
That's crazy as hell, boy.
The notorious
Just to
70s
know
killer
that
also
mental
featured in
illness
San
is
Marco's
real.
writings.
Like,
Fact. The
especially
post office
coming from us
employed
being in
David
school,
Berkowitz
like
during
we
his
wasn't
reign of terror.
understanding of that, but now
The son of
it's
Sam
like that's
Berkowitz.
crazy.
Is David Berkowitz a psychotic or psychic?
We just used to
killer?
say they crazy or
Mhm.
retarded, but they really is like they need help.
And it can affect anybody at any time.
1977, when Jennifer San Marco was
Yep.
16. 28 years
They
later,
really
in
need
2005, San Marco would take the parallels one stage further when she bought a handgun of her own.
Oh,
The
Lord.
semi-automatic handgun that she had,
That's the last
we
thing
purchased
she
from Pawn Shop in New Mexico, and waited 15-day waiting period, and went and picked it up. And at that
But they should have been flagged with that mental illness crap. She shouldn't have been able to get a gun
ammunition.
and brought 200 rounds of ammunition.
And they be quick
That's
to
what
say
got me.
they had the right to bear arms. This is why they were sending these stricter gun laws because mental illness people. That's why
Exactly.
people keep saying that.
I seen a man break down, a police officer. He had a meltdown, bro. I never seen nothing like that in my life. It was on YouTube. He had went to a call or somebody with a gun or something, but I don't know what caused him to break down like he did. But he just started screaming and said, and he just lost it. And I was like, what the? It was scary. It was, and then the crazy thing about it was the paramedic talked them out, like talked them down to calm down, and then gave him his gun back.
In
Gave him
2000,
his
And you
gun.
have these people protected and serving.
Gave him his. He had a mental break, like a mental breakdown.
removed from the Galita
I
sorting
was like, and
facility
he
where she
gave him
worked
back his
and
gun.
retired on health grounds.
Like no,
She had resettled in New
He
And
Mexico.
did.
they gonna speak on it never again. Never speak on it again.
never.
Now the
Ever.
40-year-old
Don't report it to nobody.
vengeance now upon her former workplace.
Yep, nope, ain't gonna report it or none
At
of
the end
that.
of January 2006, Jennifer
Oh.
San Marco got in her truck and headed back
And
to
win.
California.
Got in her motherfucking truck and went to go win. That's crazy.
Sometime just before the start of the 9 p.m. shift change, Jennifer San Marco arrived at the Galita postal facility.
2 years later.
She drove all the way here from New Mexico one trip. Knew what shift change was
I wonder
gonna
what's like. She probably talked to herself
The
all
whole
the way.
ride.
In order to get through the first security system, San Marco tailgated another vehicle and entered the staff car park.
She parked her truck at
She
the
mean
entrance stall,
business.
about 100 feet from the employee entrance door.
But still, you need a badge to get in the front door.
San Marco held up an employee at gunpoint and demanded he hand over his pass, which would provide electronic access to the secure staff entrance.
Yeah.
And then she told him, okay, now get out of here. And
She had him deal. He should have been.
And he could have called. You should have called 911.
I think he did.
Oh, I'm finna say.
I think a few people did.
San
Yeah.
Marco encountered
But I don't, it wasn't gonna do no
Yeah.
good because she went there. She didn't go there to talk.
Yeah.
And then meets no person she shot at.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So now I'm gonna go ahead and place the wig. It's pretty much dry.
she
Oh,
went
yeah,
to them and shot them almost point blank.
Just
Yeah,
outside
she
the
went
employee
in.
entrance, San Marco encountered and shot 42-year-old Nicola Grant.
When the shooting was occurring out in the parking lot, there was a couple employees that were in the break room adjacent to the parking lot, and they heard what sounded like and they looked out the window. They didn't see her shooting anybody
My
at that
good
point.
skinny color.
But she said that she looked at them and smiled.
Jennifer San Marco then entered the building, where around 80 people were working.
It was somewhere near 9 o'clock when I heard the first
Tight.
loud report, and it was very loud. When you have as much automation as we have running and the other machines and that going on, it's very
She
loud.
did not play.
That
Hold right
whole
here.
thing was loud.
Give me your finger.
I had heard some noises, and I thought, we have these things that sometimes the mail comes in on, they're called pallet.
If you stand them up straight up and then you let it fall, when it hits the ground, it makes a very loud report. So a lot of us thought it was just a pallet drop. So I expected when I looked up, one of my mail handling friends would be there saying, "Boy, you're really into your work," or something like that. What I saw was one of my coworkers grab a female employee, throw her to the side, point to the door, and yell, "Run!"
One guy came in at 9 and started yelling at somebody shooting. You kind of think, oh,
Despite workers' disbelief, the situation was very real. San Marco had made her way deeper into the complex. There she would shoot 44-year-old supervisor Charlotte Colton.
That's what she wanted, Colton.
She's a beautiful woman physically, but that beauty went way more, it wasn't just skin deep or whatever. She was a bright light in this town. It was snuffed out.
One of Charlotte's colleagues dragged her to the entrance corridor, where Deputy Clay Turner later discovered her. But Jennifer San Marco was not finished.
The first shot, there was a pause of about 3 or 4 seconds. Then I heard 2 more shots, pop, pop. She made her way towards her old workstation.
52-year-old Lupe Schwartz must have seen San Marco coming, but she couldn't save herself.
Damn.
And there was a pause of about 1 or 2 more seconds, and there was 4 of them rapid succession.
Damn, man.
Okay, you guys, so we have it on.
Movement in the peripheral vision on my left side, and I heard somebody yell, go, go, go.
Now I'm just gonna put a little bit of heat.
He had served in Air Force. And
Now I'm gonna wrap it down.
Oh, he was a very
With my,
nice
um,
man. I never heard Dexter
He had
say
no
an
headphones, he
unkind
didn't
word
know.
about anyone.
After shooting 6 of her
Yeah,
former
he was a
co-workers,
Mhm.
Jennifer San Marco used her handgun to take her own
Oh,
life.
like,
Oh,
she was laying on the
Yep.
floor in a prone position, and she still clutched the weapon in her hand. So we had to pry her fingers away from the trigger and away from the grip of the gun to get it out of her hand.
and I'm using this, the elastic band, to wrap it down.
Street killers want to commit suicide. They believe that this life is not worth living. They're so miserable and they don't see a way out. But first, they want to get even with everyone responsible for those
They
risks.
sure
Yeah, I ain't laughing,
That's
but
why they engage in
crazy.
killings
Yeah.
first. And, many of them are suicidal.
For all those involved, the enormity of what had happened
That's what
began to sink in.
I could look real, until I saw somebody was actually, laying dead on the sidewalk. I didn't know what to do.
4 had died at the scene. 2, including Charlotte Colton, who deputies had desperately tried to comfort, died in hospital.
You wanted the back glued down?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
The deputies
Don't last long when you
were
glue it down
reassuring
anyway.
and talking to her the entire time.
I just wish we could have gotten there sooner.
It wouldn't have prevented nothing,
You know,
because it was already done years ago, honey, when y'all fighting. It
Mhm.
wouldn't have prevented nothing. Okay.
anyone having to feel that kind of.
So you guys, I'm just gonna glue this down. I'm gonna glue it in like more towards the middle where the braid stop versus all the way at the bottom. It's not gonna make it look any different.
You said glue.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you guys, I'm gonna sew it down in the back just so we can lay somebody down. So I can I don't know what I'm saying, y'all. But anyways, I'm about to sew it down.
Since the previous day.
My girlfriend's dead. Please stand by.
And then I was wondering what was that one about, but come to find out. Oh! Oh my God.
It became clear.
You okay, Jay?
Oh my goodness. I'm thinking that y'all, please, I'm editing that part out.
With the neighbor who had
Ooh,
complained
that.
about her
I'm thinking this. I forgot you got that big lump. That little peanut back there. I'm
The
sorry.
area where San Marco had access to the rear of the apartment. There was hair pulled from somebody's head that was scattered across the coffee table and around the apartment, and there were things that were kind of in disarray.
Jennifer San Marco's deadly spree had cost the lives of 7 innocent people. But the question remained, why?
For San Marco, a woman whose life had been
She got the
disintegrated
neighbor
slowly
next over
around,
there called
I
the
think
police
this
on her
was
a
the
few
last
years
straw of the dice.
before.
I think the realization that
Couple,
she
she was playboy. That hoe was out for
She
blood.
just went to town and had it.
Literally.
Yeah.
conspiracy theories.
Literally.
Most women simply aren't that violent. Her killing
And that, what you know what kills me is what gets me is because she never had a problem with any of those people she killed except her next door neighbor. Well, I guess from her finna get fired too, the supervisor. But the next door neighbor was the only person she had an interaction with as far as the police go.
Caused them to be targeted in some
I
way.
said, dang, she didn't play
Whatever
with
her
them.
perceived motivations, Jennifer San Marco's ruthless killing spree had devastated countless lives and changed a community forever.
Every time I come to this intersection, very rarely do I not think about that night.
In the days and weeks that unfolded, we got to see and hear more about the victims and their families, and
Now this by far was the dark part of my career.
there isn't a day that's gone by that I haven't thought about what happened that night, or who we lost, or the friendships that we shared, or anything.
Yeah, okay. I think about it quite often, right? Walking in the front door. You know, it was a pretty big deal.
Okay, so we're back, you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and pluck it a little bit because it needs a little bit of plucking. That way it can lay completely flat. So using my tweezers I got in my kit with my eyebrow waxing kit that I don't use, I'm gonna just go in.
In the early winter of 1983, we had a problem arise in the Muswell Hill area of London. It was initiated by us receiving a call for a block toilet.
Number 23, Cranley Gardens, had been split into flats and bedsitters. The residents had experienced problems with the plumbing for days.
So you probably ain't gonna, I'm sure you can't tell, like, yet, but.
Such a bad smell in an apartment before it is light.
Still, lavatories at the property continued to block.
A plumber was sent by very urgently on Saturday morning, and he looked down.
This is what came out. That's not from shedding, it's from me plucking.
Knew it was not what should be done.
He observed what he said looked like some butcher's prepared meat and a few bones.
Bodies.
He discovered that what was blocking the toilets was actually human flesh.
Oh.
On the 9th of February 1983, sitting in my office, minding my own business, and suddenly got a phone call from Peter Slade, who was the early term uniform inspector, and he asked me if I got up to Cranley Gardens. He had a bit of a problem up there, and I just got into the CID car and drove up there. I always remember it was bitterly cold, it had been snowing, and we stood outside this awful house, and looked down the pit where the drains were.
Wow.
And he showed me 4 little pieces of flesh, each about 3 inches by
Oh
half an inch, or
my
maybe an inch, and
That's
also 3
crazy.
bones with a knuckle at each end. And my first thought when I saw them was that they were from a human hand. The drains were blocked.
You get middle or side?
So we knew that the blockage was originating from the very top.
The tenant of the top flat was a 37-year-old executive officer at a nearby job centre, Dennis Andrew Nielsen. He was due to
So we're
return
gonna go ahead and start parting out.
When my 2 colleagues and I walked up to the
Them Lucky Charms cereal, are they good?
The fruity ones,
Yeah.
yeah, love them.
I love me some Lucky Charms. My favorite cereal.
Yeah, I love them. Fruity ones good. They taste like apple. I mean, Fruit Loops. The fruity Fruit Loops, not the regular ones. The tropical, the purple bottles, the marshmallows.
about what I was going to face.
So I'm just going in with my wax stick
Down the loo in small pieces.
and just flat down in the part where the party's gonna be.
When Nielsen came in through that front door, I'd already made the decision to be very light-hearted with him. And I remember saying to him, "Mr. Nielsen," and he said, "Yes, that's me." And I said, "I'm Detective Chief Inspector J. I've come about your drains." And a little smile came across his face, and he said, "Well, since when have police been interested in block drains?" And I said to him, "Well, you take me up in your flat, and I'll tell you all about it."
I would
The
say
first thing
no.
that caught me was the smell of decomposing flesh. I said to him, "I'm here because your drains were blocked with human remains." And he said, "Oh my God, how awful." And I just got a little bit closer to him, face to face, looked him straight in the eyes and said, "Don't mess me about. Where's the rest of the body?" And he just paused momentarily, and he said, "In plastic bags in the other room."
Oh my God.
Oh.
Nielsen was immediately arrested and taken to the
Oh
station.
my God. I ain't even trying to lie about it.
Good. He couldn't. He
Sat in
couldn't.
the back of the police car, and I drove. And I don't know what prompted Steve to do
Oh
this.
my God.
He said, what he said, they in the room.
In the back of the room, like,
In the lie, sir.
Right.
You got me.
wow.
Well, I can remember the steering wheel in the car was shaking in my hands.
The police
Gotta be glued.
read their ears
In the yellow bottle.
Very dispassionate. Why dispassionate? Because this is a man without passion. His only passion came when he was in a murderous impulse, when he was overtaken by the other self.
In Nielsen's wardrobes were 2 black plastic bags and several air fresheners. The bags contained dismembered body parts.
And what you did last time, the baby hair?
In
They
addition,
stayed
the
another
whole
bones
time.
and a skull.
And it looked like it was melted into the wig. I said, now this is how you're supposed to do it.
Pelvis.
It's supposed to be going into your hair, not all over your face.
Yeah.
In the
That's the baby hair, you guys. Not much to it.
Investigators would identify the fragmented remains of at least 8.
Oh my God.
He told me off the record that if it hadn't have been 15, it would have been 150 if we hadn't caught him when we did.
Dang.
Because there was no stopping.
And he was putting it down the drain.
The whole thing was just totally bizarre.
Sick. That was all sick.
Dennis Nielsen was born in 1945 in Fraserburgh, a remote fishing community in northeast Scotland. His mother's family had lived there for generations. His father was a visiting Norwegian soldier.
He was one of 3 children, the middle child. He had an older brother, a younger sister. He never really knew his father. Nielsen, as a child, was a bit of a loner.
He didn't really have friends because everybody thought he was George.
Retarded. That's what he said, retarded.
A bit odd.
He didn't have tactile relationships with anyone except his grandfather.
Nielsen's father is absent from the household, and so he had formed a bond with his grandfather. They would walk together, fish together, and so forth.
The boy's grandfather would often be away for weeks at a time, trawling the fishing grounds of the North Sea.
One day, he came home from school, and his mother said to him, "Oh, do you want to see your granddad?" And he said, "Oh, he didn't know he was there." So he was very pleased about that, and he went into the kitchen, and there on the kitchen table was a long box, and in it was his granddad.
And she did that to him? Wow.
I ain't trying to sit him down and talk to him, let him know
Said
what's
you
going on.
want to see your granddad.
Nielsen's grandfather had died at sea, and his corpse had been brought home for burial.
Wow.
That is not how you tell a child that. Oh my God.
The only person that they cared about.
I think that affected him.
Of course they would.
You show him his favorite person in the world in a damn box.
Yeah, he's so young, he don't even know how to like
Like,
know
what, how to
dad,
react?
'cause, like, you know, that's how the first person ever knew died.
Yeah.
That is so insensitive.
Very.
I'm convinced I can't prove it. but I'm
That was
convinced
nasty,
I
bitch.
Yes, that's why he was how he was. Probably
nasty.
because of her.
I didn't show him no love, no nothing.
Yep.
When his
Well,
mother said,
some people don't deserve to have children.
Yeah, a lot of them
the little
though.
boy at age 6 thought, what if he's gone to bed?
And it's crazy to me, China, because like the girls our generation, it's a lot of these girls that are not mothers
And have so many kids.
and have so many kids.
Doesn't mean speak with him.
And he just said, "Be you a good mom?" I don't know.
What you
like,
say with that? I don't even
exactly. Like,
compliment
I
for
don't
that.
like how am I not did right? I just don't understand that.
Specifically, he joined
I don't-
the
I don't-
Corps, which is, of course,
I don't
very
know. I just don't take it as a compliment. I be like, okay, don't I supposed to do what I've been doing?
Right. But if I don't,
Who gonna do it?
when he's back in civilian
I always say that, even like with bills, I be like, regardless of what, this is my house. I'm gonna pay my bills
Right.
anyway. But what the next person ain't gonna do, I'm gonna pay my
The
bills.
discovery of human flesh blocking
I'm
the
gonna pay my bills, baby. I ain't gonna depend on nobody for my bills. I don't give a damn who it is.
He
Nobody.
claimed to have taken the lives of at least 15 young men.
No, he was gay.
Oh, he was?
He's saying, gotta be
He was
faking.
kidding me.
And he's friendly.
That's fuck.
Unmotivated by the death of a beloved grandfather.
That's what took him over the edge.
At 15 years old, he joined the Army Catering Corps.
You get away from
Early
his
on,
mama.
the young Nielsen would stand out from his fellow new recruits.
He was quite argumentative in as much as not picking an argument in a nasty sort of way, but if you said that photograph is black and white, you know, saying it was white and black, then so
Oh, he was rebellious like that.
Yeah.
we used to sit listening to the Beatles, Rolling Stones. We'd read the Parade magazines, which are like girly magazines of the day, and he'd probably be reading broadsheets, and he'd also listen to classical music. I remember there was once a scrap in the Barrow Crew, and I think he scratched and slapped it in the thumb like the rest of us. I remember somebody saying, "Oh, Nielsen, you're weird."
The teenage Nielsen harbored a secret.
What's interesting about the army experience is that it would have been impossible for Nielsen to have shared the fact that he was gay with any of his colleagues.
Basically, they just didn't accept homosexual at all. So if somebody was gay, they'd keep very, very quiet about it.
It's crazy, you can't even be who you are.
Nielsen began a lifelong interest in photography.
He maintained it was his hobby, photography. But it was much more important than a hobby. It was self-realization.
He could see guys.
His colleagues in the army to pretend that they were corpses, as if they'd been slain in battle, and he would take photographs of that. They thought it was
Oh, he was sick.
And he probably got a rise out of it.
I'm sure he did.
Rising to the rank of corporal.
Them crazy motherfuckers be doing their job, though.
Because they have to fit into society.
Yeah.
But just before his 27th birthday, Nielsen would reject the familiarity and order of army life and strike out on his own.
Who would want to be in a job or anything that they can't be themselves
Yeah.
in? Like,
Very true. You spend too much time here.
Too much.
You spend too much time at work to be unhappy. That's what they talk about us millennials. They was like, one thing about millennials, they gonna up and quit the job if they're not happy. It is.
What's the purpose of staying? Who want to be miserable, especially if you already miserable at home? Your work should be your outlet. Yes.
He chooses his words
They
well.
were saying that they was on the millennials, they would quit a job quick.
Okay, you guys, so the edges are done.
He's not talking to you or with you.
And I'll see you when I'm done. Go.
For me, this is just specious.
Let me get up a close turn.
To try and justify.
And we're done.